Welcome back, everyone, to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 88. I'm here with Rabin. Is that how it's pronounced? Rabin?
Rabin.
Rabin?
Yes.
Ah, Rabin. Very good. Also known as the only the best fantasy novels. So you don't just cover any old fantasy novels; you cover the best ones.
That's the hope, at least.
Yeah. If you've, it seems like. So, how long have you actually been doing this? Because you don't have that many subscribers, from what I see here.
Um, I started like mid-January,
Oh, okay.
so
Yeah. All right.
creeping up on half a year.
All right. Yeah. So, that's interesting. Yeah, my year ago was in January, so I've been doing this for a year and a half now. That is insane. But anyway, how are you this evening?
I am good, despite the late start.
Well, that's good. But yeah, no, you run a YouTube channel called Only the Best Fantasy Novels. So I like to ask this to booktubers, but how'd you get started on this channel?
Um, well, I used to blog back in the day, and then like last year I started toying around with starting a blog again, and then I found out like Google pretty much nerfed blogging in general.
Mm,
Seems like so. I at a point I was pretty much thinking, okay, I'll just like type my thoughts in a document and in a Word document and throw it somewhere. And my sister, she was into books. She's into BookTube more than me. She like started watching quite a while back, and she would watch like Elliot Brooks and Murphy and so and like I knew about it, but I thought it wasn't really something where people like me really had like were like really doing anything. And then the day she sent me a video, a Michael Moorcock video, and she was like, "Isn't this like uh, one of the authors you're always telling me to read?" And that video was by Jimmy Nuts.
yeah,
So
Michael Moorcock's made a bit of a comeback, I guess, because
yeah,
he because the new Elric editions came out recently.
yeah,
Or well, I say recently. It was like a year ago now. Well,
yeah.
I guess that's recent. I guess it counts. But yeah, no, it's actually what I thought was interesting about your channel is you cover, or you've talked about at least some more um, obscure, dare I say?
Kind of, yeah, because like I've been reading like a lot of fantasy for quite a while now. So like a lot of the popular stuff I've kind of already made my way through, and now I'm kind of on the backlist and new releases grind. So
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's actually a similar reason I started my channel. I'm like, there's these fantasy books I'm reading, and like barely anyone on BookTube's talking about it. So why not?
exactly.
It took me a minute to kind of get the feel of it, but I think I'm making do.
Yeah, like I honestly I just need like a little place to vent, and that's what's going on my channel.
Fair
So
enough. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting. Like you cover like Michael Moorcock, and I mean, you even mentioned I'm actually reading this right now. Funnily enough, I'm still reading it because I started it in April. But Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell,
uh,
which I'm enjoying a lot. It's just it's very long, and also just some other stuff's been going on in my life, so it's been kind of tough to like get some time to keep going at it. But I'm liking it a lot. It's good stuff.
yeah, I'm kind of in the same position with Shogun actually. I started it a few months before like the first season came out, and I was like, okay, I'll finish this in time for when the first season is out. Yesterday, I finally made it halfway. Like like you can literally see I was exactly halfway.
I haven't dared touch Shogun yet because I just haven't gotten around to it yet, and I like to. I had to hype myself for a while before I started Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I'm glad it's a weird thing because I'm liking it a lot, but I'm not quite at the like loving it yet. But
Uh,
I'm still like I'm like barely halfway in it, so we got time. We got time
that's the thing.
because a lot of people actually hyped that book up to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks pretty fun, or I don't know. It was one of those books I didn't really know what to expect, but it's pretty good. I'm liking it a lot. It's really
Yeah,
funny, surprisingly.
it's definitely off the beaten path of like regular genre stuff. Um, like when I first read it, I um I was kind of saturated with epic fantasy at that
Mm,
point. So I was like starting to try to find fantasy novels that were kind of doing something very different. Um, and that's like when I came across that, and I was like, holy crap, I'm really enjoying this. And since then, like it's like books like those that kind of broadened my kind of tastes within fantasy, which is why now like like you see the pics that I post on my channel, like
mm.
there's some epic fantasy in between here, but then there's some pretty, like you said, some pretty obscure stuff.
Yeah, like Benedict, is it Jacka? Is that how that's
Yeah,
pronounced? I'm like,
yeah,
I've never even heard of that.
yeah. So that
I haven't
that
heard of
series
that
in
guy, I
particular,
should say.
I would recommend to any like urban fantasy fan. I put that second only to Dresden.
All right, yeah. I mean, I'll admit, I think American Gods kind of ruined urban fantasy for me, but maybe someday I'll pick that up.
Fair
Because
enough. This this
because
this is more. Yeah,
because I'm kind of an oddball too. I like American Gods is my favorite fantasy novel. At least right now it is. It could always change, but right now it's American Gods.
yeah. What I remember when I read it, like I was like, Neil Gaiman really, he really didn't pull punches with that book.
Oh no, yeah, he's just like, oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a magical experience. I have to say. I, or at least it was for me. I know there's people who've like quit it, and I'm like, all right, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever. But yeah, you've covered some stuff on here. I see on your channel, so yeah, some stuff I've heard of, and others I have not. So there we go. Just sort of I guess that's a given with a lot of channels.
yeah. Well, if like if my videos help people find new books and like find new stuff that they love, I'm good with that.
Well, I have heard of Sebastian de Castel, or however you pronounce that guy's name. His great coat sounded pretty cool, but I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I guess another good question I like to ask people who are in the kind of fantasy sphere, but like, what draws you to the fantastic?
Um, I I think the imagination, the creativity,
Mm,
like it's a genre where literally anything can happen, right? Um, More so than I think any other genre. Um, like the only true limits are on the imagination of the author. And when you read some people like China Mieville, for example, you
mm.
really see some far out stuff. So it just kind of like that's what I loved most about it.
Yeah, you
And
mentioned Bas-Lag in one of your videos. I was like, yes, because I really enjoy that series a lot. Well, Perdido Street Station is scar more than Iron Council. Iron Council I was kind of lukewarm on. But
fair enough.
I do enjoy the first two books though. Quite. It's kind of funny with the scar because like I remember I read it, I'm like this is really good, but it's not Perdido Street Station. And I sat with it for a while. I'm like, damn, that was really good. It was one of those books, if you will.
Yeah, so like the Scar actually broke fantasy for me. um,
Yeah,
so
I know it's so epic.
yeah,
And
like at the time like I was reading like a lot of epic fantasy and I was starting to get kind of frustrated with because it's kind of like after a while it sort of starts to feel like everyone's just kind of doing the same thing over and over with pretty much just a different coat of paint.
then
And
you're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and then like it was around that time like I started looking for more novels that like are off the beaten path, and I came to I read Perdido Street Station. I had a blast with it, and I was like, okay, I'm going straight into the Scar. And when I finished reading the Scar, like I found what happened to me after that is like literally every fancy book I pick up, I'll be like, this is garbage. This sucks. This is pointless. And like after maybe like 20 or 30 picks like that, I was just like, you know what? I need to stop. So I just stopped like I just took a little break from reading around the time I was kind of like looking to make like a career shift at the same time. And then next thing I know, 4 years pass.
Oh boy, as it happens.
Yep.
I know I didn't really cause like 2020 happened and I was like, all right, you know, and I actually had a lot of plans that year and then it just kind of went to the crap because you know, COVID
Yeah.
happened. That wasn't fun. But I got my act together and I started this because a lot of my friends were like, you should start a BookTube channel," and I'm like, you know, I'm not really. Yeah, I made up excuses on why I'm not gonna do it. And then I saw like Brian Lee Durfee. Have you ever watched Brian Lee Durfee?
Yeah.
I watched
Yeah.
him. I'm like, you know what? I got no excuse whatsoever. I gotta get in on this. So here I am.
I I even like after that video with that Moorcock video that Jimmy made, like I went
Also,
really back and
I
forth
got
on it.
also I got frustrated with seeing like the same 5 fantasy series we talked about over and over again. As much as I like some of those series too, I was like, God, someone's got to get some new blood in here.
Yeah,
Anyway, finish your thought. Sorry, I didn't mean
yeah,
to interrupt you.
I went after that Jimmy Nuts video, and I started like really looking at BookTube videos. I was like where are the other picks? And at the time, it felt like okay, maybe like I actually maybe have something to contribute, but like I don't exactly consider myself the most like um, I don't exactly consider myself really good at public speaking or or like I have that kind of charisma that really helps you really go with this whole BookTube thing. So I was like, I'm not cut out for this. This is not for me. And then some like I think it was Christmas last year. I realized I have a lot of free time on my hands now, which is a situation out of my control. Um, I have like a DSLR camera that my wife bought before she got sick. That's just sitting there doing nothing, and I'm pretty much going stir crazy because like all my friends are in positions where like they're having kids, they're doing all this crazy stuff with their life, and I'm kind of just there. So like,
I know
why
what
not?
you mean.
Why not
One of my
occupy
high school
myself?
friends is having a kid. I'm like, oh my god, I need to get my act together. I mean, I'm not having kids anytime soon. Like, my god, I'd like to be in like a stable financial situation before I do that. But, or well, on my own anyway. I'm still with my parents right now. but
Yeah,
but I'm like, geez, man. Or I'll see them like traveling around. I'm like, oh my god, I need to get my act together at some point. So I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah. I remember like 2 years ago, like me and like when I first moved up to Canada, um, me and like a few friends, and so we met up. We kind of hung out for a bit, and so 2 years on, literally every single one of them has a kid except me, a newborn that they're dealing with. So
But you were just like,
I go,
dang.
yeah,
You were just like, man, that's something. Anyway, yeah, no, it seems like you've I mean, I saw you covered this Beer Cuts Through Water, which like everyone's been like, oh my gosh, go read it, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll check it out. I don't know, is it good? Like, would you
oh
say
yeah,
the hype is warranted?
oh yeah, yeah. The hype. It's one of the few cases where I'll say like the hype is real. Um, Actually, that's one of the most surprising things I think I found on about BookTube is that oftentimes like when people like say a book is really good, it's actually really good. Like it's rare that it's not. Like I mentioned, I used to like blog back in the day. And like I'm talking like 10, 12 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, when when you heard someone say, "Oh, this book is good, you need to read it," you don't take it with a pinch of salt so much as an entire sack.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's just there's sometimes you just like, oh man. Yeah, everyone like there's certain types of books where everyone is like tells you it's great. You know, it was like I was like this with like the First Law or especially Malazan. I don't know if you've read either of those. I mean,
Yep,
I'd be very surprised if you haven't at least read one of them. But that's one
I've read
everyone's
both.
like, oh my god, it's really good. Now, First
I've
Law, I
read,
can confirm I really enjoyed a lot. So there you go.
yeah, I've read both. I'm actually planning to reread Forest Law next year because
Oh, Malazan, I'm kind of like I'm a little it's kind of funny. I remember my friend Matt on Books. He talked once about Wheel of Time, and he's like, I'll talk to them, and like they kind of talk you out of wanting to read it. That's happened to me with Malazan. Like everyone's always like, "Oh
oh man,
man, it's really difficult, and you got to put a lot of mental effort into it." I'm like,
I
that doesn't sound fun.
I don't really agree with that. Like,
No, though I have heard there are some cool things in it, like dinosaurs with sword hands. Like,
yeah,
why
the
don't people talk about that? Like, come on. Once again,
yeah,
I'm
the
calling out the
kitchen.
Malazan fan bait, but do better at promoting your books. Like, take
Yeah,
that.
like I don't get why people say like it's so difficult to get into those series and what like it it's like anything it's like any book you pick up. Well, for me at least, I would assume that when you read it, you kind of want to focus on what you're reading on,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you just take your time and you go through it. And like because of that, I've never quite understood why like there's all this. I think it's because like most fantasy authors, and these are like things like Brandon Sanderson and his acolytes kind of help push. Um, they kind of make things as accessible and as easy as possible. Whereas Malazan, it throws you into it.
Mm.
It gives you a lot of information, enough to more than follow and enjoy the story, but it doesn't like spoon feed you.
Yeah, I mean, with like Brandon Sanderson, and like, I just haven't read any of his stuff either, because like it's one of those things, kind of like Wheel of Time. I've never been attracted to it per se. Just,
Okay.
I mean, someday I'll try it. I'm not saying I'm against trying it, but like I'm just kind of like, because like I like weird, obscure stuff. Like I like the weirder stuff. I don't know where Sanderson goes. I won't say anything because I haven't read any of his stuff. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, maybe we'll see, we'll see.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Or
I
have you read
get what you mean.
Sanderson?
Yep.
Oh, I see you got some. Never mind.
Yeah. I'm actually planning like because fifth Starlight book is coming out. I actually want to start rereading the entire Cosmere soon. So
Fair enough. I mean, I would like to. There's some I'd like to reread, like I'd like to reread Game of Thrones again or Song of Ice and Fire again. Not
yeah.
because like Winds of Winter is coming out anytime soon, but I'm just kind of like there's some stuff I forgot about. I want to read it again, see if what I've forgotten, kind of get that memory going again, being like, oh yes,
Honestly,
this is why I enjoyed the series.
yeah. Honestly, that's one of the walls I've been hitting recently. Like because I kind of got into like ad- adult fantasy with Game of Thrones, and it was when like the buzz was starting to build that A Dance with Dragons was about to be released.
Mm,
So it's been a while, and like from Game of Thrones, I kind of immediately went into like all the big ones that
mm,
everyone recommends. So for a lot of these books, it's been quite a number of years to me, and like it's not that I like them any less. It's not like I've forgotten so much about them. It's kind of like I want to re-experience them
yeah,
again
exactly.
because
Yeah, exactly. That's a similar thing I'd like to do.
yeah, because like honestly, it's been so long for so many of these books to me that I'm a very different person now, and I kind of want to see how I react to it
Yeah,
as compared to the
exactly.
first
Yeah,
time.
I mean, I'm kind of like you. It was a very Song of Ice and Fire was very formative for me because I was one of those weird kids who like read it in like early like high school. Well, I guess that's not too weird, but anyway, I read it. I was like, holy crap! I didn't know fantasy could do that. Really,
Yeah,
yeah, I was in love.
yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Like I read like Harry Potter in middle school, and I was like, oh yeah, this is good. And like Lord of the Rings, I'm like, oh yeah, it's great. Then I read Game of Thrones, I'm like, oh, it's over. Like, oh man, I don't know where to go after this.
After that, I was like, I need more. And then a friend was like, "Have you ever heard of the Eye of the World?" And he
uh,
was like, "Here, just read the prologue." And I read the prologue, and this guy, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read it, um, but literally in the prologue, Lutheran, the dragon reborn, the dragon, he commits suicide by turning himself into a mountain. So I was like,
okay.
okay, I'm there.
All right. That's an interesting pitch for that. I've not heard that before.
Yeah,
That's funny. That's great. Um, yeah, no, yeah, there, and also there's a lot of also the internet helped a lot because it's like, oh, here's all these fantasy or whatever books because I don't just read fantasy. I do enjoy it a lot, but also what's nice is you got fantasy booktube where people are like, yes, here's some books, go read them. If it's not the like same five series I was alluding to earlier, because my god,
yeah.
they're just I'm like,
But
oh, I like the first law too, but oh man, oh, oh, Malazine.
yeah,
Oh, no, I'm kidding.
I get
Slightly.
it. Well, back then I was actually still living in the Caribbean, so like I didn't really use the internet for stuff like for like finding fancy books and that kind of thing. It was like mainly like schoolwork and that kind of stuff, um, research and that kind of thing. You just didn't have the bandwidth for that kind of stuff where I'm from. um, so like it was pretty much word of mouth with friends for me. So I kind of like because of that, like I basically just read a bunch of stuff that like my friends recommended, or like this secondhand bookstore that wasn't too far from my school. Like I would walk there and I would pretty much just pick up anything with a fancy looking cover that caught my eye, and that's kind of how like I formed like I read my initial stuff, and then after that like it was after Game of Thrones and it was after I was the Wheel of Time. Like I actually started looking online, like okay, I like these. What else is there out there?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of well, it's the thing with fantasy. There's a lot of it. Like oh my gosh, there's series and standalones, and you're like oh my gosh, where am I gonna start?
I get it.
So I mean, I would probably say First Law would be a good place to start, but that's neither here or there.
I kind of hesitate to recommend stuff, which like you would find funny given I have a BookTube channel, but I kind of hesitate to recommend anything to anyone personally until like I get a bit of a feel for what they like.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Um,
No.
yeah, like other than that, I pretty much general recommendations. Like this is good stuff. You can try it, whatever. But
Yeah.
like the better I know someone, the more targeted I can get.
My friend D. Yeah, she didn't really take the First Law, and I'm like, man, like that really surprises me. I like that seems right up your alley because she likes really dark, twisted stuff, right? And like basically, and I hope she doesn't get mad at me. I'm trying not to misquote her here, but I'm paraphrasing. She didn't think it was twisted enough. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm like, fine. That's fine. It kind of hurts a little bit, but okay. That's you know what? I can't take that from you.
Yeah. Um,
So where are you from anyway? I'm out of curiosity.
um, well, I'm from the Caribbean. I I spent most of my life in this little South American country called Guyana,
Mm,
and then I migrated to Canada like at the height of COVID, which was fun.
mm, mm.
Um, I've been here since, which is one of the reasons I don't keep too many physical books. Like Toronto apartments. Can't happen.
Well, I mean, I thought maybe you mentioned you were in the Caribbean. I thought you were like Indian. Is why I was curious.
Oh yeah, like so I'm East Indian, but
Oh, okay.
one 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 of the cool things about the Caribbean is that there's actually a large Indian population there because
Oh.
like like Guyana in particular, used to be a British colony up until like the 60s. So around the time like when slavery was abolished, they replaced slavery with indentured laborship, and they pretty much took like Indians from India and transported them to their colonies, and they were some of them were basically my foreparents. Um,
Okay. I was just kind of I was just curious. All right, I didn't know that.
yeah,
You learn something new every day, then I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, very interesting. But yeah, um, yeah. So you got a YouTube channel going now, and you've been going for a little bit. You've covered a lot of again. You've covered a lot of interesting books on here. There's even some stuff I haven't even heard of, like Fathom Folk. I don't think I've heard of that actually. Hmm.
yeah.
But
Like the I saw like the blurb with this kind of like drowned city and these different races and this kind of thing, and I thought it seemed like it might be fun. So I pretty much just waited until like I some books, depending on if I get like a good vibe from them, I'll just buy them.
mm,
Other ones I'll probably just wait for the library, or I'll wait for one of my cousins who likes who likes picks a little more in along the YA space.
mm.
And I pretty much just wait for her to bully me and tell me I need to read this or I need to read that.
Yeah, I read a bit of Fourth Wing. It wasn't fun. I don't recommend that book.
Yeah, that I have yet to hear anyone say anything good about that. And even like even this particular cousin, when she doesn't recommend a book like that to me, I'm like, okay, there's no way. because because for example, like when that new Hunger Games book got announced, I immediately started thinking, okay, she'll buy it, she'll read it. A few days after that, she'll start bullying me to read it. So I need to set aside at least 2 days or whatever to go collect it, read it, and then talk about it with her. So
Yeah, I haven't read the not Game of Thrones, the Hunger Games prequels or whatever those are, because I was just meh about the original series. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean I don't dislike it as much as something like Twilight or Divergent, but it's it's not very stiff competition.
yeah. Honestly, I'm pretty ambivalent to the entire like YA genre. Like I don't know, like
I like coming of
some
age
of it
stories, but like there's some there's like the YA ness of it is kind of
exactly like
is just
some some of it is good. Most of it just doesn't appeal to me, and I'm trying to phrase that very kindly.
yeah. That's a very it's very wise it's a wise position. It's a wise position to take. I also see you cover. There's some books I have heard of that you covered, like the Emily Wilde books, or I do think I actually saw someone ranting about that book the other day, but um it seemed very what's the word British.
Yeah, kind of like it has like this whole academic scholarly vibe. One of my favorite series of all time is actually Marie Brennan's Memoirs of Lady Trent, and like at the time when I read that, I was just completely blown away at just the way like this decided to approach fantasy from like a very scientific, um, like a very scientific lens,
Mm.
and um, Emily Wilde pretty much does the same thing except with fairies. So
Yeah, that's it kind of gave me that I don't know if I'd say Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is like a cozy book for sure.
yeah,
Labels have kind of ruined fantasy in a lot of ways, cuz like people are like, "Oh, it's this kind of it's like
If
It's
I
hard
had
to
to,
just call it a fantasy. Oh my god. Yeah, I get there's
yeah.
different styles though. I'm not
Oh yeah,
saying they're useless, but yeah, man. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, would you call Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell a cozy read? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes
I wouldn't.
I would not, but
I would not. I
um,
it's actually like for me, it kind of belongs in that like class of like fairy story. That's kind of like pre-Tolkien, where like the fairy realm, it's both a really it sounds like a really fascinating place to be, but it's also extremely dangerous.
hmm
So
yeah, I'm
so
at the
like
part where I'm at the part or one of the parts I've read is where where the thistle haired man basically gets the black guy to go to fairyland, and they're basically like him and the lady are kind of caught between two worlds, at least at the moment anyway.
yeah.
He's basically like, I'll free you, and you're like, what? For what? And but I gather that the Emily Wilde books are kind of similar. Then well, maybe not similar, but like there's a similar like fairy. I don't know what to call it.
They they're similar in that they kind of both deal with the fairy realm,
Where
but like
they look very British, I guess.
yeah, but like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, it just has so much more going on because like there's
That's
the
true.
backdrop of the war and that kind of stuff. Um, whereas like Emily Well, it's kind of it has like this thread of like a romance story going through it.
Okay, it's,
Yeah.
it's not terrible. Hopefully, it's not bad romance. Got a lot of
Um.
that in my life.
Honestly, like I've kind of become inured to romance at this point. Like it just happens in a book. I don't pay much attention to it. I just read. Like I like the other stuff that happens around it. Unless it unless it like really manages to capture me. Like and hot take here, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which is my favorite of the four Brand and Secret Projects. Which yeah,
no, no.
and like I have yet to meet more than three people who have anything good to say about that particular one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a way. I'll admit, I'm a little hipsterish in that way. Where I like different kind of fantasy. So that's why I'm enjoying Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It's not. I mean, sure, it's definitely it definitely has its inspirations. Like I know she's pulling from a kind of fairy tale kind of tradition. Um, but it's definitely like I haven't read or not I haven't read any. Well, it's kind of Dickensian as well in some ways, but it's unique for sure. I love how she does magic. I should note. I do. I wish more authors would do it like she does it. But man, really like how she does magic. I'm sorry if that
Yeah.
was word salad.
No, I get it. Like she, I like that she has two approaches to it, and it's embodied in the two characters.
mm,
Um, yeah. So like it kind of she went to two extreme. You have two different personalities, two different approaches to
mm-hmm.
magic, and that's the conflict. That's like the core conflict of the book. And like you mentioned, you're halfway, but as it goes in towards the end game, that really plays a big part.
Yeah, I do like their dynamic where it's a classic odd couple. There's this
Mhm.
Norrell's this just kind of stungy. That's not even a word. Kind of this curmudgeony. Wants to just sit at his house and read books all day. Kind of doesn't suffer fools. Just kind of just wants to
It-
be left alone. And then Strange is this just very charismatic, dashing English gentleman.
yeah, yeah.
I do like that. I will admit though, I thought like when they would meet, I thought it would be like this climactic thing, and it's just like he just walks in and they're like, "Hey, how's it going? You want to study magic?" He's like, "All right," and that's it. You're just like, okay.
Oh no, the clash comes later.
I thought they'd like start bickering or something. Like, nope. Well,
No,
kind of.
it
Like they're
it forms slowly. It
I,
forms slowly because
they
like
like they're
strangers.
civil, but like Strange will go back to his wife. He's like, God, that guy's an asshole. He's really
Yeah,
smart, but God, that guy's an idiot.
uh,
uh, but I'm liking it a lot. It's really it's unique. I'll put it that way.
it is. It is like it's one of the books I caught. Like I'll always have it as a favorite because I caught it at the perfect time. I caught it when I was very tired of what like the majority of the genre was doing at the time because I'd already read so much of it, and I was looking for something fresh and different. And it w- it was around that year it started like sweeping awards and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So like it was one of the books that kind of blew the doors open on fantasy for me to the point now where like I'll read things that most like most genre readers won't touch
Yeah,
really
I
and
know.
truly.
Like
Like
that's the thing about Strange Nr Norrell. It's a very acquired taste. Like I don't want
yeah,
to. And don't take this the wrong way. I'm liking this book, but like there's like it's very like how do I put this without like sounding like I'm critiquing it. Like it's a bit dry. Like the humor is very dry. It's very the characters are very kind of these kind of stuffy English gentlemen. Like I can see a bunch of people like bouncing off of it for lack of a better word. I'm enjoying it.
yeah,
I like British type of humor, so I'm all down.
yeah. Like it's a very different type of book. Like for example, I wouldn't expect someone who like really loves like John Gwynn to in the same breath enjoy like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. They do two vastly different things.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, have you
So,
have you read her other book, Paranesi?
oh yeah, oh yeah,
I was about to say I read that first because I'm like, okay, shorter book.
short.
Let me just read this and test it out, and I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And
Yeah,
Jonathan Strange is the freaking opposite. Like it's maximalist to the. Like, she's like, my God, I'm enjoying it, but like just it feels very authentic. I'm not an expert in Napoleonic England, but it feels like reading Dickens again.
she got the vibe right. Um, it, I kind of enjoy like when authors manage to do that. Like one of the books that I read recently is Agent Tchaikovsky, Guns of the Dawn, and
mm,
he manages to capture like that Edwardian era, like right
mm,
before World War I, where like women were just kind of starting to transition from like like this role in society where they were kind of expected to be like socialites and like like how to put it like like the runners of the household, that kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
and move into roles like that were more traditionally held by men, mainly because of like the requirements of war. Like he managed to capture that essence really well in that book.
Yeah, I feel like other settings should be played with in fantasy. Like, I mean, as much as I like medieval kind of stuff, and that
Mhm.
definitely it's definitely very cool. I mean, like, there's other like realms you can play with. Like, come on,
Oh yeah,
come on.
it's
We're starting to. One of the things I am appreciating is we're starting to see like kind of okay, we're kind of people are allowed to play with more stuff now.
yeah like and there's some really cool books that are coming out as a result of it. Like um, I recently read these two novellas by Moses Utomi. The Forever Desert. The first one is like the lies of a jungle,
Mm,
and the second is the truth of the Aleki, and it's essentially this pseudo African setting
mm.
where yeah, like a very tribal setting, and in the first one we have like a protagonist. The village is suffering from drought, and he goes on a quest to find a water source.
Mm, mm.
Like that's not the kind of thing you would read from an author with like a traditionally European background.
Yeah, no, I'm always looking for fantasy from like different cultures because I read Black Leopard Red Wolf a few years ago, and I'm actually hoping to read Moonwitch Spider King sometime soon.
I
but
I need to get to those.
um, fantastic book. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, Britton, when are you gonna stop talking about it?" Well, when other people start talking about it, then I'll stop. But it's not at all. I mean, the setup's familiar. Kid goes missing and a bunch of wacky characters go on a epic fantasy quest to go find it. But just you gotta read it.
Yeah, I'm planning to read it like when the third book is at least announced.
Yeah, I know. I read it. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be. Well, the cool thing about Black Leopard Red Wolf is it's a standalone story because the whole trilogy it's the same story told
Oh,
by three people, different people who were there. So that kind of
oh,
throws the whole thing into question. So yeah, I do hope the third one comes out at some point. I don't know when that's gonna be, but I hope it comes out because my friend Raph is similar. He's like, I'm not reading them until third one comes out. And I'm like, fine.
yeah.
I won't stop you.
There are some authors I'm willing to take the chance on, and then there are some who I prefer to just wait.
That's fair. I mean, it's when a fantasy series isn't done. I've like George R. R. Martin. When's a winter ever coming out? I have no idea. But
Rothfuss, Scott Lynch.
Scott Lynch, yeah. Oh my god, I read the three Liza Lockham or not Liza Lockmore, the Three Gentlemen Bastard books last year. I'm like, well, dang it. Now I have to. It also kind of sucks because the third one wasn't that good, but it's I had a lot of problems with the third one. Let's
At,
say.
at, the, at this point, I figure we'll never find out about Sabitha, but but you
The
know what?
romance I actually didn't mind in that book. I actually like in the flashbacks. I'm like, got a book right there. Like I'll read about that. Like it's like, come on. But
Yeah,
no, it didn't really. It didn't really like I don't know. Those first two books are just like really good. You know, like man. All right, I said about Liza Lockmore. It's the most satisfying book I read last year. I love it.
oh yeah, yeah.
Like when he takes revenge on the Gray King and the Falcon. I'm like, mm, yes. Though apparently they're putting him out in a broken binding. I think
Um,
somebody's
honest,
re-releasing it. I don't know.
honestly, I'm not a fan of the whole broken binding
No,
situation.
no, you're not.
No, because it's
I
to
I've
me
I'm
like
not. I don't know if I'm gonna indulge because my God, that it's a lot of money. Now I did hear they are doing Perdido Street Station, The Scar, and I'm like, mm,
yeah, that
it's too much money.
I, I won't lie, that tempted me, but in my case, my thing against it isn't like the cost. My thing is that for me, it feels kind of like a racket. So here's my thing on it. You sign up for this subscription, right?
Uh-huh.
You have to accept whatever book they send you, whether you're interested in this book or not. You have to pay quite a bit for this book, right? Apparently, they have rules against selling them back. Um, and also, you're really only allowed to pass on one book per year.
I know. I'm
So
just like I can't just get like Perdido Street Station and just be done with it. Like I have to like sign up for your service.
I think you could actually buy those. Um, you can actually pre-order those, but like the subscription one, the subscription service, you're kind of locked in because you have to take whatever they send you. You you're not really you can get kicked off the subscription list for selling it back. You can really only pass on one book, and if you try to pass on multiple, they can kick you off the subscription. And at the same time, like these are gorgeous books, everyone wants them. I would like, I would love them too, but it seems like
It's not worth it to you.
No, I'd like to be locked in and to potentially month after month receive books that I don't care about. No, it's a racket. Like for me, like
It's a racket.
it
I like
is, it
that.
is.
No. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just it's funny. You describe it like
Yeah,
that.
like nothing against the people who sign up for it. Like I absolutely get the allure of a gorgeous book, and my thing is that if it's a book I don't care to own, what do I do?
I know. Yeah. No. Man. Though. Oh man. I wonder if they're gonna do. Wonder if they do like American Gods or something. Maybe. No, but yeah, I'm not. I'm the same way. I'm not really. I mean, like I've said, there are some books that have tempted me, but I'm not really.
Mhm.
I'm kind of like, you know
And
what? I'm fine with my books that I got here. I don't
yeah,
know if
and
you can see. I have a bunch of crap back there. Bunch of books back there.
and like I mentioned, I used to live in the Caribbean. One of the side effects of migrating, because when I came up here, I couldn't bring my books. Um,
I bet that was
like
fun.
I couldn't bring them, and I have hundreds of books back home
Mm-hmm.
that are just there, and like it kind of causes like mentality shift in me where I kind of disassociated. Like I didn't feel I don't have that urge to like own books anymore. Like
Mm.
if I buy a few here and there, like I buy it and have it, but like I'm perfectly fine. I have a Kindle. I just buy an ebook. That
Mm.
that works perfect for me because I'm in a tiny Toronto apartment. Space is a premium. Um, like I could have thousands of ebooks now and not worry.
Yeah, I like reading physical books. I'm not against ebooks. I mean, I've read like ebooks on my phone. It just feels kind of weird when I read it on my phone. I'm Maybe I should get a Kindle someday. That wouldn't be too bad.
It did take a bit of adjustment for me too because like the vast majority of my reading before it was like mass market paperbacks because that's primarily what I got back home.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
but since then, like I've really grown to appreciate ebooks more. Just in terms of like the space, the convenience, and they tend to be cheaper than hardcover. So like I can literally buy more books.
yeah. I mean, that's always a good thing. I mean, I usually get paperback for the same reason because it's cheaper.
Yeah,
Though I did get the hardcover for Moonwitch Spider King until they put out the paperback, and I'm like, well, shit. So I got
yeah,
the paperback, and then I sold the other one to a local bookshop that takes like used books. So I'm like, all right, there you go. Someone else will, love it.
yeah,
Hopefully. That
yeah.
would
Like
I'd be very sad if someone just picked it up and didn't like it.
yeah, like even though like I have like a set monthly budget for books, and I rely pretty heavily on the library and stuff. Like that those extra dollars you save with ebooks, they go a long way. They do go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's yeah, yeah, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating at times.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I see you cover like Michael Moorcock. I haven't actually read Hawk Moon yet. I read Elric and the Whispering Swarm. I didn't really care for the Whispering Swarm, but I do like Elric a lot.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Whispering Swarm either.
Oh, you read? Oh, you read it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? I was like, what the hell is
I, I,
this?
I think you need, I think you need to be in a very specific mindset, and you really need to love Michael Moorcock to love that
I
book.
do like my. I'm like, what is this book?
Yeah,
It's kind of like an autobiography, but it's like a fantasy novel. I'm like, what is this? Is this
yeah, and
just
I
like
think
Is this just
and
him
and
like going like, here's how I came up with so here's for all the people who ask me where I get my ideas from. I
yeah,
don't know.
I actually know a guy who really loves it, and he was telling me like the sequel is even more crazy because in the sequel, like he has like alternate versions of himself,
Oh my
and
god.
like like in the same way, like in pretty much every Eternal Champion book, like there ultimately be like multiple variations of the champion who like assist with the quest and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apparently, he did the same thing with multiple variations of Michael Moorcock.
Of course he did. Yeah, you think like Stephen King went nuts with the meta thing in Dark Tower. Oh man, forget it now. Moorcock wrote a whole book about it. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
He's like his fantasy girlfriend like comes with him to the real world. I'm like, dude, I don't really want to picture that in my mind, please. I mean, I'm not a
I
prude, but I'm not like I don't want to picture that, please.
Yeah, I don't mind when authors write themselves into a book, like Clive Cussler, for example. Every single one of his Dark Pit books that I've read, he always includes a scene where like Dirk is backed against the wall. He's in pretty much a situation he can't get out of, and Clive Cussler, the character, just happens by and saves him from it.
Like literally the author of the book.
Yeah,
That's it.
like for example,
That actually sounds pretty fun. It actually sounds kind of
yeah, like
funny.
for example, like Dirk might be like in the middle of an ocean, floating on like a piece of board with no land in sight, no, and then far off on the horizon, like this random sailboat will be passing by, and who's on the sailboat but Clive Cussler?
I'm
Situations like
adding this
that.
to my list. I gotta read that now.
Yeah,
Clive Cussler. I like that. That's funny. That name sounds familiar though. Hmm.
yeah. He writes like those action adventure. Um, think of like the whole action adventure treasure story kind of
Oh, yeah.
those thrillers. Yeah,
I'll be right back real quick. I'm gonna do something. I'll probably cut this out.
no
But I'll be
problem.
right back real quick. Again. No. All right, I'm back. I'll cut that bit out. But anyway, you were saying you're talking about oh yeah, we were talking about meta stuff. Yeah, Moorcock does that. I'm shocked that you've also read the Whispering Swarm because like I was starting to fear there that I was one of the few who actually read that book.
Yeah, like I I read it, and at the end of it, I was like, okay, maybe not everything he writes I need to read.
Yeah, like there's books of his I want to read, like The Dance at the End of Time, and well, I've only read like Elric, that book, Whispering Swarm, and Corum, which is basically like which I thought was fun, but I liked Elric more. It's basically like him doing the old, oh, Elric's anti Conan. Let's do the anti Elric. I'm just like, dude, come on, like
Mhm.
you can do better.
Um, so
I do want to read Gloriana though.
Glory, I've actually read quite a bit from him at this point. I've read Elric, I've read Hawkmoon, I've read Corum, I've read Erikosi. Um, Erikosi is actually a really good one to touch because it's one of the recommended starting points for the whole Eternal Champion saga. It kind of gives you the backdrop of who the Eternal Champion is and why he constantly appears in so many of Moorcock's stories in different variations.
Mm.
Um, I've read those. I've read Dances at the End of Time, and I've read Behold the Man. Behold the Man is not a book I recommend lightly.
Isn't that the guy? I haven't read it, but isn't that about the guy who goes back in time and becomes Jesus?
Well, he becomes Jesus because when he goes and finds Jesus, Jesus is a very special individual.
Oh dear, I don't know if I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah. Until I know how religious you are, I don't recommend Behold the Man.
I mean, I've read Preacher. I can take it.
Okay, okay.
I'm like
Uh,
I don't know how many comics you read, but I've read Preacher. I think I can deal with it. I haven't read that though. I haven't read
I
it.
haven't read Preacher, but I honestly I don't stray too much into graphic novels. I've read a few of like the ones everyone says you should read, like Watchmen, V for Vendetta,
Mm-hmm.
Asterios Polyp, Mouse,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of those ones.
Mm-hmm.
Sin City, because Sin City.
Oh my god, yeah. Since what a zigzag in quality that series is. I don't even want to get started on that. Like some of them that are pretty good, and then there's the other ones where I'm like, oh my god.
Uh,
Yeah. That's all I gotta say about that. I mean, I know there's people who like Sin City, and that's fine. But like, I just, uh, uh. No, I don't hate it, but it's just
it's all over the place.
yeah, I know exact. That's a great way to describe it. Like it's all over the place. It's oh man, oh. But yeah, no. Frank Miller did the cover, new cover for Gravity's Rainbow, apparently,
Oh,
which surprised me because I had no idea that Frank Miller even knew who Thomas Pynchon was. And then I talked with a friend of mine who is a Pynchon fan, and he's like, "Oh, I get Pynchon actually liked Frank Miller and wanted him to do the cover." I'm like, I didn't even know Pynchon knew who Frank was. It was yeah. I'm like, oh my god.
I feel like the more time passes, the stranger people I find coming together to create, like to get involved in like different
Yeah,
collaborations.
exactly. I'm just like, dude. Oh,
Like, for example, up to yesterday, like this book has been announced a while. It's been talked about for quite a while, and only yesterday I was talking in the Fireside Discord that it's still so weird to think that China Mieville and Keanu Reeves of
oh
all
yeah.
people.
I thought you were going for. I remember when that got announced. I was like, what?
and,
Such a
and
weird
apparently
pairing.
and apparently Keanu Reeves wanted China Mieville specifically. So
He's got good taste, at least. I don't know what to say.
like every time you think Keanu's a really cool guy, you find out something that makes him even more cool.
Yeah, I'm like,
Like
I want to
it's
hang out with
crazy.
that guy. He seems like a cool man. And then he's like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm having China Mieville help me. I'm like, okay, great. Like, this is great.
yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I remember when I first heard that. I'm like, really? Like, it's such a weird pairing. I
Yeah.
mean, though apparently China Mieville is putting out a new solo novel next year, so I guess we'll see what that's all about.
I am very excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I read The City in the City first back in like 2019. I actually want to reread it again. I remember liking it, but then I read Perdido Street Station. That book just blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I,
um,
I've read like all his fiction. I wanted more, so I checked out the Dial H comics, and then I wanted more, so I read a few of his nonfiction stuff.
oh, you read
So
like his like Marxist stuff.
yeah,
I did get his nonfiction October. I haven't read it or anything, but maybe someday I'll pick it up.
yeah. Um, so I'm pretty ready for a 1,000 page Maven novel, especially given it's one he's apparently spent like 20 years making.
I'm
Like
curious what it'll be though. That's
right? Like
like hmm, hmm.
what what can a guy like that with 20 years worth of time think of?
Yeah, he's like he's a he's a ear-ringed, bald Marxist fantasy author. I don't know.
And the guy is as much a vampire as Will Smith. Like it's been like 20 or 30 years since his first novel, and he
Or
looks the same.
Keanu, that dude.
He
That
looks
you know
exactly the
what
same.
that's probably why he picked China Mieville. He's like, that dude doesn't age either. We gotta get we gotta milk the memes out of this one.
I can see that.
No, but I'm like, man, that's okay. You know, that's an interesting that's an interesting pairing. But I hope it's good. I
uh,
I mean, to be honest, I mean, I don't wanna say anything because you know, Keanu, cool guy. He seems like a really cool guy. I wouldn't be shocked if he just let like China Mieville write it, and he was just like,
well,
I don't know
I
how this works.
I think I think the idea was like Keanu has like his he has this berserker world from his comics, and he wanted China Mieville to write the tie-in, and
Mm.
he had pretty much just like one condition, which is the main character gain the ability to die. Not necessarily to die, because the guy is like a 8,000-year-old immortal or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he doesn't want to die. He wants to gain the ability to die if he chooses. So I think that was like his one requirement. And then China was like, okay, I'll go ham on this.
I'll
I'll
do
do
my
my own
China
thing.
Mieville thing. Oh yeah, I did start Kraken, and I was really liking it. But again, it was 2020, and I COVID happened, and I got really depressed, so I just stopped. Not because the book was bad. It was on my I'll pick it up later list. Because I don't
Yeah,
really DNF. I put away books and I'll pick them up later.
yeah, I get that.
But
Um,
so have you read Kraken? That's a weird one. I remember I was
yeah,
enjoying it when I read it. It gets pretty wacky.
especially I kind of don't want to touch it, but like especially when we really start to delve into what's going on with that squid.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've gotten to that part yet. I think the part I stopped at is when they meet the living tattoo. So
Oh,
when you're like, what the? Okay, all right, go nuts. Talking tattoo. Though I really I don't know. After reading the Bas-Lag books, I'm like, I don't even know. That's the weirdest thing he's done. The Weaver's up there.
oh yeah. Um, he has some crazy stuff in his other books though. Um, I kind of don't want to talk too much about it and spoil it though. But you know that living tattoo thing, it kind of reminded me of this book. It was on the World Fantasy Award nominee list for last year. Um, the the Ballad of Perilous Graves, and in that
Oh, I've
book,
heard of this book. Yeah.
yeah, and in that book, like graffiti kind of comes alive.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
so and it would like it is in some cases like it's floating through the streets, and like people,
All right.
yeah, it's just like floating through the streets, and like people will kind of dive into it, and they'll basically transform over time. And
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I mean, I bet Mieville just like read it and was like, "Oh, damn it! Like, we need to, I need to get it."
I
Like,
could see Mieville liking that book. That book is pretty crazy.
yeah, it's he's a unique writer for sure. Which I really
Yeah.
we need more like him. I think.
And on that topic, I actually read this guy recently, Vajra Chandrasekhar. Um, I think his last name is pronounced Vajra. His first name is Vajra, last name Chandrasekhar, and he wrote this book, The Saint of Bright Doors.
The what?
Uh, the Saint of Bright Doors. I think it's up for the Nebula this year. Um,
Oh, okay.
that guy,
I mean,
that guy is channeling some serious Mieville energy.
oh, I'll have to add that to the list then.
Yeah, like
Oh man, the first review I see, John Morrow gave it a 1. Oh, on Goodreads. Ouch. No, but I'll add it to
like
my list though. And sounds up my alley for sure.
yeah, like the guy the imagination is there, the vocabulary is there, the writing style is there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's another thing. I had to look up some words and I'm a big word enthusiast, so I'm like, all right, I like some arcane words. There's some words in
like,
like Pretty Little Street Station. I'm like, what are you talking about? I had to look them up.
yeah, like one of the things that will forever stick in my mind is the impossible sword from the Scar.
Oh my god, yeah, that thing is awesome. Oh man, I would love if this new book was a Bas-Lag novel because I'm like, God, this should be a franchise. ah,
Yeah.
but if it were a franchise though, it would probably ruin the like just.
Oh yeah.
Probably better wishing for it than getting it, but you know, it's
I feel like if it were a franchise, Mieville would not be associated with it in any way, shape, or form.
I wouldn't be shocked. He'd probably be like, "Oh man, this is not at
like
all what I was going for."
like he would actively fight it. I feel.
Yeah, people are like, "Man, they should adapt this," and I'm all like, "Yeah, oh, God, how? Maybe animate it. You could." I don't know.
Probably.
That's just me. I enjoy. But yeah, it's a. But I mean, I would love to see more of the Bas-Lag world if he ever did come back to it.
Yeah. I honestly, I kind of like at this point moving forward, I kind of want like just new unconnected novels from him because it's been like well over 10 years since his last one. Um,
Yeah, I know, but a man can hope, can he? Come on.
yeah, and I feel like he's already like developed the Bas-Lag world to a certain extent. So like anything new he writes, he kind of has like some constraints on him at this point. Like well not really constraints because you can always work around stuff, but like he'll have to kind of like include elements that kind of tie it into the larger world. And because of that, like there will be some amount of logic that's applied that will kind of constrain him to some extent. And I just want this guy to just go wild and just like give us. Let's see what 10 years of not writing fiction gives. What he can do with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm curious to see what he'll do. You know, I'm really hoping it doesn't suck. Because I'll admit, the
I
last couple books I've read were kind of, because like I said, I was kind of a little let down by Iron Council. Then I read Embassy Town. I'm like, what is this?
oh yeah.
I read that. I'm like, what is this? I might have to read that again. I don't know, but yeah, I'm curious to see what he'll do. I'm actually hoping at some point, maybe this year. I don't know when, but I do have Unlundone over there. I'd like to read that.
That one is pretty fun. It's a bit more like I would say childish. I would say like more whimsical, and it's
Yeah,
definitely more like targeted to like a younger audience to an extent. Um, I think that one he was inspired by Alice in Wonderland actually.
I do
So
like Alice in Wonderland.
oh yeah,
I did see they re-released King Rat not too long ago, so I might pick that up as well. But I don't know. I don't know.
King Rat it's like a grungy urban fantasy one. I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about that one. Like
That's
I
fair.
like
I'll admit, after reading Pretty Little Street Station, I'm afraid he might have ruined his bibliography for me. I don't know if any of his books are gonna. Well, I know you like. I think you like the Scar more from what I've
I
picked
do
up,
I do
but
I do.
I don't know if you're a similar way, but just with the Scar. I don't know if you've like read his books and like stop the Scar, stop.
no, at this point, like I'm just excited. Like anything this guy writes, I want to read. Um, but like King Rat, there are some novels where it has like so many things in it that you like as ideas, as concepts, but like when they're combined, it just doesn't have the same kind of entertainment factor.
Mm-hmm.
That was King Rat for me.
Okay, I mean, I guess that, I mean, it is. I think it was his first novel, right? So I mean, I guess he
Yeah,
hadn't quite, gotten it together yet.
yeah. I think like back then he was like into like the underground music scene, and like he was fascinated with garbage and these kind of things.
Fascinating with garbage. That I look forward to reading that and seeing what I think of it. Oh my god, that's oh man, that's I it's um there's garbage in Perdido Street Station too. Like
In pretty much all his books, I don't
he
remember
just
if I
really
read it
likes
or I saw
garbage.
something. Yeah, he's fascinated by the whole concept of garbage. Apparently,
He just likes garbage. I don't know.
yeah.
I heard there's living umbrellas in on
Oh,
London.
London, yes, yes,
That I'm looking forward to that. I wanna see what
and
that's about.
yeah, and like pollution plays a big part in that story and that kind of thing.
Um, that's another thing. New Chromazon does not sound like a fun place to be.
Oh no,
Polluted is all get
oh
out.
no, oh no.
Ugh.
It
Like it's kind of weird because I read the Scar and I was kind of identifying with Bellis because she was missing New Chromazon so much. I was like, oh man, oh. That
the,
was one of the things that was nice about Iron Council. Like, oh, New Chromazon, I've missed you.
yeah, like honestly, New Chromazone, it took a while to grow on you, but then it's like a fungus. It's very hard to get rid of.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. You're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said my piece about Nick Robozan. I'm like, man, great setting, wouldn't live there.
Oh no.
Even pointing a gun at me, you wouldn't make me live over there. Oh my god.
I can't think of any fantasy world, any fantasy setting I would remotely consider wanting to live in.
That's a good point. There's always the top fantasy worlds I'd like to hang out in, and I'm like, I don't know. I've never really like Lord of the Rings, like the Shire. Maybe I'd hang out in the Shire.
Not honestly, it seems like very boring to me.
Oh,
Um,
what
like
you like sit around and like smoke Hobbit weed all day? It doesn't sound like a bad life.
yeah, there
I
is
can
that.
see how it might get boring for some.
Yeah. Like I would kind of consider Tanlorn, but at the same time, there are books where like Tanlorn's just completely wrecked beyond imagination. So
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't live in Bas-Lag for sure. I would
oh no.
definitely. I mean, I don't want to get my consciousness sucked out if I'm unlucky. Come on. Or get convicted of or well, I'm not. I probably wouldn't be a. Well, I'm me, so I'm not really a. Oh dang it! What are the bird people called? The Garuda. I'm not getting my.
Oh
I'm not getting my wings sawed off. That doesn't sound fun. Or
yeah.
remade. I don't want to get remade. That doesn't sound fun.
I um I realize by this point I have pretty bad luck in life. Like some things work really well for me, but for the most part, things just don't work at all. So if I were like in any of these fantasy worlds, there is very little question that I would be one of the people holding the very short end of the stick.
You would be one of the unlucky people in
Oh, very much, very much.
Oh no. Oh god.
I'll give you a typical example of my luck. I went to get my driver's license when I
Oh
moved
no.
over here, right?
Oh
Um,
no.
I was not ready this day, but I went anyway because I had it booked. At this time, there was like this huge backlog with COVID,
Mm-mm.
and you couldn't, and you had to book like months out. So I had to go whether I wanted to or not. The reason why I didn't want to go is because like this was like my first winter here, and there was a big snowstorm that was gonna come. So as I was going, like I kept hoping, please let them cancel this test. Please let them cancel this test. You know, my car was the very last car to leave that lot for the test before they canceled all tests for the day because of that snowstorm.
Oh,
And and it was coming down hard enough that I couldn't see well. Like I completely missed the speed limit sign, instant fail.
oh no, that's not good at all.
Yeah, so that's just a taste of my luck in life.
Yeah, so we're definitely not. Let's not put you in Bas-Lag. You might not fare very well. That's what I get.
Pretty
I
much.
remember. I think we were talking the other day on Matt's stream, Matt on Books stream. I think you were commenting, but you mentioned Lud-in-the-Mist is your favorite fantasy novel,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
which is interesting. I haven't read it personally, but I know it's a bit of a it's one of the pre-Tolkien fantasy novels.
Yeah. So it's pretty much the only novel written by Hope Mirrlees, and it's a fairy tale.
Like
Uh,
it's an oddball choice, and as someone whose favorite fantasy novel is also, well, I guess American Gods is more popular than Blood in the Mist, but it's still an oddball choice, you know.
yeah. So like this is what I mentioned earlier about like certain books catching you, like you being in the right frame of mind to catch certain books.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lud-in-the-Mist was one of the very first books I read when I was extremely exhausted with epic fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just looking for a fantasy that was doing something different. And like there's the Golan's Fancy Masterworks list, which has like a list of all these really good fantasy novels, pre-Tolkien.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, like really good classic fantasy novels. So I was on the lookout for pretty much any of the books on those lists, and like I happened across that in the Mist. I was like, okay, good, I'll get this, and it's short. So I was like, I'll just start reading it right now, and it completely blew my mind. Like I can't describe how much I enjoyed that novel. Like in terms of like when you sit and you enjoy it, just immerse yourself in the novel. There's very few I can think of that I enjoyed start to finish every single page the way I enjoyed that novel, and that's why I say it's my favorite fantasy novel.
You know,
Just
that's
the,
it's interesting you say that. It's kind of how I was with American Gods, though. With American Gods, I kind of just picked it up. I don't know if I wasn't quite as structured with my reading back then as I am like now. I'm just like, all right, this looks fun. I'll read this, and I just started, and it hooked me, and it never let me go. There were some moments I was like, okay, but aside from that, I was in. Like, I don't know. It was just like it was like that. You know, I'm like, it just had me. I don't know. It's one of those weird transcendent experiences I can't explain with mere
yeah, it
words.
is. It is.
I don't know if
Uh,
it's similar with you and Lud-in-the-Mist, but that's how I felt when I
pretty
read
much, pretty much, pretty much.
it. I
Like
read it. I'm like, ooh.
like I have yet to read. Like I was saying, I have yet to read a novel that I just enjoyed as tremendously and to the same extent. Except maybe the Scar.
Fair enough. I mean,
Except maybe
I'll,
the Scar.
I'll admit, I like Perdido Street Station just a little bit more. I do love I do really enjoy the Scar as well. And I would understand the argument that like the Scar has like a better story than Perdido Street. I've heard some people say it. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I'll give you that. But I don't know, just the raw creativity and just the adventurousness, as I like to say, with Perdido Street. I don't know why. It just intoxicated me.
Yeah,
Like
I get it.
I want to see more of the city, even though it's terrifying. Like, oh my god.
I get it.
Though
Like
the Scar, it's great for a different reason. It's more like intricate, kind of
I feel
spy
like the
stuff.
Scar is. I feel like the Scar was just written a bit more accessible than Perdido,
Mm.
which could be a contributing factor. Like Perdido, like China really hammers you with just the essence of that city, like just relentlessly
Oh,
at the
but
start.
that's what I like about it. It really makes it feel
Exactly.
alive. you know.
Exactly. But at the same time, like I get why a lot of people say they couldn't get into it because it's all about your tolerance. You either really love it or it gets overbearing after a while. And in my case, like I enjoyed it, but towards the point where like the really crazy stuff started happening, it was starting to wear me down just a little bit, and and that's like the reason why one of the reasons why I kind of think back more on the Scar.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair. I mean, I don't
uh,
I think the Scar definitely is. Would I say it's more of a traditional fantasy adventure? Kind of.
kind
It's
of, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's more of a It's more. I don't want to say standard fantasy because it's not. It's definitely
Yeah,
not. But I can see more fantasy readers kind of gravitating towards it. That's a
yeah,
good way to put it. Because like Pretty Little Street Station's like this weird thing that he just kind of blobbed out, and then the
yeah.
Scar is like more like, okay, here you go. It's more there.
To this day, I don't understand the purpose of the hinting.
The what?
The hinting.
Oh God. Oh man, I like especially like I've actually I do sometimes I do readings on my channel. I've thought about doing the final Tanner Sack bit at the end of the book. After the really horrible thing happens to him. Because I just love that. It's so good, so good.
uh,
So what other fantasy or what are you checking out right now?
um, well, I'm actually reading my way through Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn.
Oh, are you? Yeah, I've Tad Williams is another one I need to try at some point.
Yeah, it's rich and it's very, very, very slow. Like, I'm kind of splitting it up. Like I read as much of it as like I can. Like, when before I get too bored, I switch it up and I go to one of like the Star Wars expanded universe novels, the
Mm.
Legends novels, Knight Errant, and that's that's got like that action element to kind of get keep me going a bit,
Mm.
and
Mm.
in between I'll read parts of Shogun.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like I'm kind of like rotating between those three at the moment.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I'm getting through Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell, but I'm also reading The Power of the Dog right now, which I'm
Oh,
really digging. Though it's a crime novel. It's not really a not a fantasy novel.
yeah, yeah. I
I
want
don't
to
know if you
read that
watch.
at some
I don't
point.
know if you want. I don't know if you watch Story Tube, but they really like that book, and they're like, "Oh my
I
God, Britton, you should go read it." And I'm like, "Fine."
I watched some of their videos. Once I saw Evie recommending it, I was like, okay, I need to check it out at some point.
It's really good so far. I don't know if it's a 5 star just yet, but it's really good. It's really good so far.
I I'm kind of waiting to be in like a good in the mood for something like it to pick it up because like it's kind of weird, but like right now I don't really like the idea of like romanticizing um like crime.
Oh, there's no romanticization in it. It's brutal.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't know, like it's kind of hard for me to describe this. Like it feels like just the act of like writing certain stories and like getting them out there. It's almost like it's almost like you're getting people to look at this kind of stuff and say, "Oh, that's cool." Like I would, you know, I really can't. I'm really not doing a good job of explaining myself there. Um, it, it's like John Gwynn's Faithful and the Fallen series. Like he
Mm.
does a really good job of kind of like romanticizing the whole Viking the whole Viking warrior lifestyle kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I had this I have this series called What's the Big Fuss, and they picked Malice. I still haven't read it yet because stuff kept getting in the way.
yeah, I honestly didn't enjoy that series very much.
Oh
Um,
no, I hear most people enjoy it. My friend Darko didn't take to it, but most people
yeah,
enjoy it.
like most people enjoy it, and I get it. It's just not something that worked for me because like I like a lot of creativity in a lot of imagination, a lot of creativity in fantasy. Like I mentioned at the very start, and the like John Gwynne does. He write these are very much like Viking inspired novels, but because of that, like I feel like when authors like write books with using these settings, they kind of feel like they have to stick within these bounds to kind of make the most of it, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
like it goes back to like everybody liking Vikings. So if you're gonna write a Viking story, you need to make it as Viking as possible, or like whatever people perceive as Viking. Um,
That's fair.
and
I mean,
yeah,
most of the fantasy I'm looking for nowadays is like unconventional stuff.
yeah, and
So,
like and for me, like for comparison, like a Viking story, a Viking series I really enjoyed was Harry Harrison's Hammer and Cross, because it's it kind of tells the story of Sheaf,
mm,
who, yeah, like if like you're familiar with Viking, like Viking British lore, that kind of thing, you might know the story of Sheaf. Um, I think he becomes like one of the forest kings of Britain or something like that. It's been a while since I read this series, but one of the things, for example, that really caught me about that series is that even though it's at its heart like it's very much a Viking story. Um, like Thor, Odin, all of them appear in this story.
mm,
There's a lot of stuff that goes on in there. Like there's the evolution of technology, where like we find out how halberds came about and these kind of things. Um, there's the conflict between paganism and Christianity that's constantly a backdrop throughout it. There's like creative ways to tell certain stories.
there is one book called The Broken Sword.
Yes, another good example. Like
Um,
it
that
has a
came
lot of
out
like
the same year as Fellowship of the Ring. Apparently,
yes.
apparently, according to Michael Moorcock, better than Lord of the Rings. Though I won't go there because I haven't read it. But I am really I do have it up here. I haven't read it yet. I might save that because my reading stack this year is pretty stacked already. But I do want to read
Yeah,
it.
I wouldn't say it's better. I wouldn't say it's worse. Like they do two different things. They do similar things, but they also do two very different things. So like the Broken Sword was a very cool story.
Mm,
There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on in it, and like Tolkien, it's also inspired by a lot of like the Viking classics, like the Edda and these kind of things.
mm-hmm.
So it's almost like you had two completely different authors look at the same source material and come up with their own stories, and
Mm-hmm.
Tolkien just kind of won out.
Yes, I do hope to read it soon at some point. Speaking of the non-Tolkien, I am hoping to start Gormenghast this year.
Uh,
Titus Grown. Yeah, I was gonna do it this summer, but then Jonathan Strange took up a lot of my time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna push this a little bit, finish that up, and maybe try some other stuff, and then I'll get back to Gormenghast.
yeah,
So yeah.
Gormenghast is a story you very much need to be ready to to get into it before you start it's very macabre, like
Yeah,
it's
that's
very
that's what I've
weird.
heard. It's very weird.
Yeah, and it's got a whole vibe, and the way things are portrayed, and so it's very unusual to say the least.
Well, I like very unusual, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. Like the first book, it's kind of got a story that would be familiar to most fantasy fans in that it has like a kitchen boy who he kind of wants to go through the ranks and become someone within the castle of Gormenghast. He kind of wants to better his lot in life essentially, and he chooses to go about it in like a very Machiavellian way.
Mm.
Um, but then from the second book is where it really it's just all about marinating in the miasma of Gormenghast in general, and that's where a lot of people kind of drop off.
Yeah, like didn't he get like dementia or something?
Yeah, like I think he did eventually pass away from like mental related illnesses, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
Yeah, and the book's kind of you can kind of see a hint of it here and there.
Yeah, I heard the third one really goes off the rails.
Yeah, the second one it starts to get really, really crazy, and then the third one is just uncharted territory.
All right. I do look forward to that book though. Another one Michael Moorcock speaks very highly of.
With good reason. Like there are some books that you need to read to experience. That's one of them, and Robert Holstock's Mythical Wood is another one.
I wanted to read that. It looks really cool. I haven't read it yet though.
Yeah, it's that one is it's really good. Like it's one of the more recent fantasy masterworks picks I read that really blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I haven't. I mean, I haven't read them yet. I'm actually hoping next year to go on like a pre-Tolkien kind of. Maybe next year. I'm kind of thinking about it. Going like maybe like read Lud-in-the-Mist or King of
Mhm.
Elfland's Daughter. You know, just more or Broken Sword. I hope to read the Broken Sword. I'm trying not to think too far ahead because like we are still in June, but these years move so fast now. It'll be honest before we know it.
Yeah, I honestly I think I'm gonna be doing a lot of rereading coming up. Like I want to reread the Cosmere for the pretty much the second half of this year. I really want to get back to First Law because it's been quite a while since I've read those books. Like I I read them when Last Argument of Kings came out, and I pretty much read each standalone after that as they were released. Um, and now, like the recent trilogy, the Age of Madness trilogy, it has people going, "Oh, like this is better than First Law," and I was like, and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, do we remember the same books?
Oh, sorry, my cat.
So no problem. So like I kind of want to go and re-experience it and see if it's indeed fact or not.
Yeah, or well, oh, Mythago Wood.
Yeah,
I've thought about trying that series out. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. I've heard that one's really good.
it is. Like I've read the first book.
Mm.
It's pretty good to say the least.
Yeah, kind of sounds like the Vor. I read the Vor last year, which I thought was a really fascinating book.
I haven't read that one. It's on the TBR.
I think you would like it. It's definitely unique. Though I had some friends of mine read it with me, and they didn't take to it as much as I did. So that was unfortunate.
I'll check it out. I,
Hopefully, you like the more unique fantasy.
yeah, I think I think my like weird picks for this year might be already a bit spoken for though because we have a new China Mieville coming out just now. I want to finally read the Ambergris trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I love Jeff Vandermeer's science fiction work. I haven't read his fantasy yet.
yeah, like and I actually today got an arc for the new Southern Reach novel, so I
Oh
want to go. So I
no,
want to go. Yeah,
man.
so I want to go and reread like the Southern Reach trilogy also before I read that. So
Oh man, Absolution. I do have my friend Jason, who is also a big fan of the Southern Reach books, gave me these for my birthday. So
uh,
I appreciate that, Jason. If you watch this, but yeah, those books are great. I actually, my kind of spicy take is I like Bourne even more. As much as I enjoy the Southern Reach books, I love Bourne. Thought that was a fantastic book.
I do want to read more of his stuff, but I've had Ambergris on my TBR for so long. Like I refuse to read any of his new stuff until I read that.
That's fair, man.
Yeah,
It's
like
I still need to read his fantasy stuff. what is it? Ambergris? Ambergris?
Ambergris. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you
like
got the
City of
omnibus
Saints.
version.
Yeah, it's like City of Saints and Madman, Shriek and Finch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw like Michael Moorcock really liked it. China Mieville really liked it. Victor Laval really liked it. Apparently, like I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
I want to see what all the fuss is about.
yeah, I really do want to read it. And like I have a few other authors like who write like some interesting fantasy that I do want to get to, like Jeffrey Ford, um, and Daryl Gregory.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you've checked out Daryl Gregory's Spoon Benders.
I have not.
Yeah. So you ever saw the show Shameless by chance?
What?
Shameless.
I don't think so.
So Shameless is the Spoon Benders is pretty much like just this crazy family dynamic, and there are psychics involved,
I do like
and
dysfunctional families. I mean, not like as a concept, but I do like reading about them.
yeah, so yeah, so like, and the thing is the psychic ability within this family, it's very different. Like some people have it, some people don't have it. It manifests in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like the patriarch of the family, he's a full blown con man.
Oh, okay.
So so you have like they were like these big TV stars back in the day where he was a con man and his wife was an actual psychic,
Oh, okay.
and it gets really crazy. Like and there's just a bunch of different stuff mixed in. Like one of the sons gets tied up with a loan shark, and you can imagine how that story typically plays out. And
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna go off the rails pretty quickly.
oh, it did, it did. The ending is one of the wildest things I've ever read. Um, and only because one of the characters that barely speaks a word throughout the entire book, he he had some interesting things going on, to say the least, that all came into play towards the end.
Oh, okay.
Like he spends the entire novel just doing random renovations around the house, and you have no idea why until the very end of this book.
Okay.
But remember, this is a family of some people who are psychic, some people who aren't. So,
Definitely, it definitely sounds like stuff goes down in that
oh,
book.
oh yeah, yeah. Like it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Um,
Might have to check that out. What's it called again?
Spoon benders.
Oh, I think I saw you talking about that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So the World Fantasy Award. That's my favorite genre award to follow, and Spoon benders was one of the picks on in one of the years.
It's called
So
Spoonbenders.
yeah,
Do I even want to know what that means? I probably
yeah,
don't.
it's crazy, and like the father and the mother of this family, they met when they got involved in like this government study back in the 60s and 70s to try and weaponize like psychic powers and these kind of things. And of
Oh,
course,
okay.
the father's a con man, so you can it has a lot of humor to it, and
Yeah,
just a lot.
it definitely sounds like a tongue-in-cheek kind of book.
Yeah, like it's pretty great. Um,
It's
but
okay. I'll add that.
yeah, yeah, but because of that book, like Darren Gregory is one of those authors I really want to read his other stuff. Um, I think he wrote a book recently where the last girl survivors club or something like that, where essentially it was like this therapy group, and everyone was like the last survivor of a serial killer or something like that.
Oh, another one of those books. I saw one from like, oh jeez, what's that guy's name? Grady Hendrix did a similar book at that time.
Right. I think I gotta look it up, but
I don't know.
yeah. But basically, ever since that book, I decided I gotta
There's
read
so
all these
much
guys.
fantasy out there, man.
Yeah.
Like, so much, never ending.
Oh yeah, a lot of it is pretty crazy, which is why sometimes it can be like when you open a list and you see like the same five picks over and over, or
Yeah, and you're just like, I can't do this anymore. No, yeah, I mean, I'm not against like normie fantasy. Like, I like Game of Thrones and
yeah,
First
yeah,
Claw. I haven't read
it's popular.
Malzahn, but Malzahn sounds
It,
fun.
it's popular for a reason, right? Like I can safely say I've read most of what like people tend to
But
enjoy, and
I
I
like
enjoy all of
variety.
them. So yeah,
But I like variety nonetheless.
yeah. My thing is like if you consider those to be like steak, like my thing is like I enjoy steak just as much as the next guy,
Hmm.
but I also want to eat something more, and that's why like I have that whole mix going on.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It's definitely I definitely like eating other meals when I have the chance.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I can tell you based on how well I'm assuming based on how my channel is performing, people don't care.
Well, don't worry, cause I do.
Oh, yeah,
Though, hey,
like
Evie liked Titus Grown apparently.
yeah, yeah. I do need to recommend her the Saint of Bright Doors. So if she watches this far into it, she should check it out. I keep forgetting every time I'm online. I need to tell her to check that one out.
The Saint of Back Doors. What a
Of
name.
Bright Doors,
Of what?
the Saint of Bright Doors.
Of Bright Doors. My bad. My
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, it's a weird name. So I'm wondering when we get her to read Mieville and then she starts like going off about that. That's what I want to know. Get like need her to spread the word because people might actually listen to her, unlike me or you.
uh,
Excuse me.
I need to have a chat with her sometime about that.
Oh man, yeah. I've thought of. She has said she wanted to come on my pod, so maybe someday I'll let her come on. And
Yeah,
she
that would be a good idea.
yeah. I mean, I've talked to her a few times. She's always been nice to me.
She's a very nice person. She gave me my first shout out on YouTube.
Was she the
Like
one who got you to read The Spear Cuts Through Water?
no, I read that before.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
that's
that's how she
surprising.
found me.
What?
That's how she found me because one of the very first videos I posted was about the spear cuts through water.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's wow. All right. I like that. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you cover these like lesser known fantasy novels. So that's always nice because I think we need more of that on BookTube.
The,
Um,
yeah, like there's so much really good fantasy out there, and like it, it. I feel like the genre would only get more enriched by more people reading it, by reading like different stuff, and I'm just realizing like there's more to it than just epic fantasy. Um, like 5 years ago, if you told me like today, I would one of my favorite authors would be Jacqueline Carey. That whole Kushias, that Namaz universe, those books. If you told me like how much I would love those books, I would tell you you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But I do. Those books are wild. Those books. Um, have
I
you read Robin Hood by chance?
I am not. That's another famous series I haven't read yet, but
Okay,
someday I'll
but
do it.
okay, but you know how Robin Hood she kind of has this reputation of like doing really brutal things to her characters.
Uh
Jacqueline Carey could teach her a thing or two.
huh. I was gonna, speaking of that, I'm like, you guys haven't read China Mieville, man. Like Perdido Street Station and the Scar, particularly, they treat their characters brutally in that one. Like, oh my god,
Oh yeah.
you want emotional trauma. Ugh. I also see you've even read Cake in the Dam. I actually read that book this year. It was pretty fun. I really enjoyed that
Yeah,
book. I
yeah,
mean,
like
it's not like my favorite thing in the world, but there were some things though. Like I've always wanted to see like the Lovecraft creatures in like a fantasy world. We got it. It's just like, yes, an
Yeah,
eldritch fantasy. Yes, this is what you know.
yeah, it's pretty good. And like I'm really looking forward to the third book, The Dragon Who Winter, that's coming out soon.
Yeah, I need to read the second book
Yeah,
because well, I don't know. I read the first. I thought it was fun. You know,
they
it
are.
didn't really blow me away, but I don't think it was trying to like blow you away. I mean,
No, like they're honestly, I'm at the point where I
it's a
pick up certain books.
little bit on the rapey side, which that was kind of like. I mean, it's not portrayed as like a great thing or anything like that, but it's just like I was like, damn, dude, like, calm down.
I try to judge like before I read a book. Like I try to like not read too much about it, but then when I'm right about to read it, kind of like just read the blurb. I kind of set my expectations accordingly. And
Oh, did you read it because Moorcock blurbed it? Because that's kind of why I picked it up. Is
oh
because
no, in that one, like I actually like the cover of I'm a sucker for covers. So like if a book
oh
has a good, a tempting enough cover, I will read it.
oh,
That
you know,
that
I'm the same way. I really like covers, man.
yeah.
Like,
Um,
I'm a bit of I'm a bit of a snob for them, if you will.
yeah.
But yeah, there's
Um,
so many fantasy authors I want to try, like Le Guin, Zelazny, Jack Vance. Well, Jack Vance is fantasy. Though, well, I guess he did write some fantasy.
yeah, I read Dying Word from him. I really do need to get to Leonis.
Clark Ashton Smith, Lord Dunstan. There's so many. It's ridiculous.
It really does sound like next year will be your year for Tolkien fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, you know that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the pre-Tolkien fantasy. It's gonna be great. You know. Well, I guess I guess I got Gorman Gas. Gorman Gas came out before Lord of the Rings. I think. I
Mhm.
could be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess I'm starting a little early, but yeah, next year I'm putting it up as a theme. Also, yeah, China Mieville's new book with Keanu Reeves, which is still just weird to think.
I have that pre-order. I cannot wait for it to come. Like one of the things I like about here is Indigo. They tend to deliver when like you pre-order. They tend to deliver books like a day or two before it actually comes out. I
Mm.
am counting on them to come through with me for this.
I mean, that's fair, man. That's yeah. I don't blame you. I'm always scoping out for Mieville books at my local bookshops. They're just really bad at carrying his books. That's where I got Perdido Street Station from was my local bookshop. So they do have them. And also they re-released King Rat for some reason.
Yeah, I saw like this whole Tory Essentials line that they're doing,
Uh huh.
and it got released as part of that. Um,
Looks kind of grungy.
it is a very grungy book. It's like it's very like gritty and like this like urban fantasy kind of low urban fantasy setting. Like I told you, like when
and
the guy
there's
wrote it,
and there's a lot of trash.
yeah, like like I mentioned, like when he wrote it, he was fascinated by like this underground music scene and by garbage. So
Again, he really likes garbage for some reason.
yeah, uh,
I mean, hey, garbage is you could do. I mean, garbage can do a lot in fantasy, I guess, because I mean, Mieville literally makes like a society out of garbage in Perdido Street Station. So I mean,
so like I said, like pretty much anything can happen in fantasy, right?
yeah, I know. I'm like, that's always my thing. I'm like, dude, fantasy, you can do literally anything. That's the beauty of the genre. At least I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Though there is one book I see that you mentioned that caught my eye. It's called In the Nightwood. Sounds pretty.
Oh,
That looks really
Yeah,
cool. I'm gonna add that to my list.
yeah. It's really interesting because like it it's kind of like Mythago Wood in that it deals with like uh, it's not quite a trope, but it's something that appears quite often. It's just like the Eldritch Forest.
I do like Eldritch. I mean, you know,
Yeah. So like
I,
Mythago Wood is
I like Eldritch forests. Like, you know,
there you go. Yeah.
hey, if you like
So
Eldritch forests, read the Vor. That it has an Eldritch forest in it. That might be
okay,
the
I
Garden of
definitely
Eden.
gotta pick it up now. Um, but yeah, like Mythago Wood was it was that.
I like Eldritch locations in general. So there you go.
Yeah.
Have more Eldritch locations in your fantasy novels. Do that.
Keep things interesting.
But yeah, it's about a weird woods.
Yeah. So this author he's already dealing with like he lost his child, and he's an American. He moves to England to try to write a biography on this really obscure British author, and he moves into the guy's house as part of that. And on the board of the house is this wood where like creepy shit basically lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole book is basically just this kind of sense of like slowly mounting horror as like weird and weirder stuff starts happening involved in the forest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like the sound of that.
yeah, like it's one of those books that like it kind of treads the line between
Oh man,
fairy fantasy and horror.
man, this copy of Mythago, what I'm looking at right now, introduction by Neil Gaiman. Who else? Who
So
else? Who else would?
someone men- someone mentioned that like Neil Gaiman is a blurb by him or an introduction by him is pretty much worthless at this point.
My God, I got a few fantasy like my King of Elfin Daughter has an introduction by him. I see that Lud-in-the-Mist has an introduction by him,
It,
and
it has the blurb by him. Hold on.
my
Look at
hold
the
on,
blurb.
Kitty. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to move you because I'm trying to prove a point here. Could you move? Yeah, I see that. Like there he is. Right. Hold on.
Yep.
Right there.
This
Just
one is one of the few blurbs I actually agree with him on.
that's fair, man. I haven't read Blood in the Mist yet, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
I want to maybe. I don't know. I don't know that from the look of that cover, it looks kind of. I hate to say this, but it looks kind of girly.
Yeah. Yeah, like
That's
I
bad.
honestly I have no problem with that because one of my biggest pet peeves with fancy is that marketing for a lot of really good stuff is just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Like
I'd agree with that. There's a lot of bad
like
marketing out there.
yeah, like Jacqueline Carey. Once again, 5 years ago, if I had looked at her covers, I would immediately write those books off as like fantasy romance, that kind of thing. But they're pretty much high fantasy novels with just a slightly heavier romance element to them. But they're very much high fantasy, like in the epic sense. Um, and then I read another series recently, Blackthorn and Grape by Juliet Marillier. They also have like really, the fancy covers are all like these women in like exotic poses, that kind of thing. Um, they don't look they're not targeted towards people like me and you,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. But those books were crazy.
I guess I'll have to check them out. I mean, my God,
Yeah.
there's you're opening a whole new world for me here.
If you check like my videos, I recently reviewed all three of them. Like you'll see the covers in the thumbnails. So you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, oh man, I there's so many books out there, man. No,
Yeah.
but I mean, Blood in the Mist is said to be a really good novel. So hey, I mean, if Neil Gaiman likes it, like that's good enough for me, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And it's a pre-Tolkien book, so you could probably fit it in next year.
Also, it's kind of short from the sounds of it.
Yeah, like I read it in one day.
Damn, must have been into it.
Oh yeah. Like I told you, there isn't a single book I can think of that I enjoyed as tremendously as I did that one. From start to finish, everything about it.
All right. It is well. Here, this copy here says it's 239 pages, as it says on Goodreads. So that's pretty short in comparison to other fantasy
Yeah,
novels I've read.
yeah, and we're not talking fine print here.
I hope the copy I get is as elegant as yours is. Like yours looks very
Yeah,
very nice.
I think this is the easiest one to find now, to be honest.
That's also one thing I appreciate about Neil Gaiman is that he does kind of give attention to these kind of older, more obscure books.
Yeah, like I saw a cover for a new edition of Gormenghast. Neil Gaiman blurred it, but
I thought they would have gotten Michael Moorcock for it. Like, oh, come on.
I feel like Gaiman has a bit more like pop culture power right now because of Sandman and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so or maybe they're more likely to. I guess maybe he's more accessible than Moorcock or something. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Elric gets pretty out there. That's the hard thing about Moorcock is like he just gets out there. Like the chronology of his books are bizarre. I can't. It's sometimes hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah, and that's actually something that bit me recently. Like I picked up the third the second series of Hawkmoon novels. So the Hawkmoon novels are what people typically think of as the first four, History of the Rune Staff, and then there's another trilogy called the Congress trilogy. Why? I'll never understand because there are three Hawkmoon novels. Um, yeah, and
Marketing probably.
who knows? And that trilogy, it should be the very last set of Moorcock novels you read because that trilogy closes out the entire Eternal Champion story.
All right, I'll keep that in mind whenever I
Yeah,
eventually
like
get to that. There's other
yeah,
Moorcock books I'd like to try before I really get into the Eternal Champion wild craziness.
yeah, like I picked that up thinking it would just be another set. It would just be another set of more of Hawkmoon adventures, not knowing that this closed off the series. So I have a ton of stuff out there that I still want to read. That's pretty much in the middle. I know it starts with Erikosi. I know it ends with the final Hawkmoon novels. It's all the stuff in the middle that's left now.
Yeah, I think my friend Josh really likes Hawk Moon, so I'm curious to see what all the fuss is about.
It's it's fun. They're punchy and like a lot of his other novels. He's not very kind towards Great Britain as a colonial power or as an imperial power, I should say. Like you mentioned you read Gloriana, right?
No, I want to read Gloriana.
Oh
I have not read Gloriana yet. That's
yeah,
another one I might save for next year.
yeah. I'm surprised that he's ever allowed in England again after Gloriana.
Doesn't he live in Texas though? No, does he?
Yeah, he's American, but yeah.
What is Gloriana just like offensive? Like what?
Not really, but he does take quite a bit of liberties with his portrayal of the Queen
Oh
and the
no!
court.
Oh no!
So
Oh man. Well, maybe if I do read Gloriana, I will invite you on the channel. We can talk about it. I don't know.
yeah,
But
he did with Gloriana. He did to the Queen of England what in Behold the Man he did to Jesus.
so what is like Jesus like a douche and Behold the Man or something? Or is he
He he's special.
he's special?
Yeah, in the in the politically correct sense of the word,
Oh, like he's like mentally challenged.
among other things. Yeah,
Oh no! Oh. I gotta read this now.
Yeah,
I have to see
like
what this is about. Oh,
yeah, like so Golan's similar to how they have the fancy masterworks. There's this line, the SF masterworks. Um,
oh.
that's how I came across Behold the Man, and that book is why I now have to read everything in that entire line that's published. Um,
Oh, what a read. Oh, that sounds like I guess I'll have to pick that up at some point.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Why? I didn't. He did. I like how you described that. He did to the Queen of England what he did to Jesus. Oh man. I thought like he made like Jesus a dick or something. So Jesus is nice. He's just kind of he's just special.
He's special, and the guy with the time machine, he was like, "This is Jesus," and then he tries to make the situation better, and inadvertently becomes Jesus
Oh jeez.
in the biblical sense of
Oh,
who Jesus
I
is.
bet that pissed a lot of people off. Oh,
Uh,
oh man.
I,
I've had fun with this conversation. I do hate to cut it off, but I do have other
oh
things
yeah,
I'd like to do this evening.
oh yeah,
You
for
are getting
sure.
me fired up to read Jonathan Strange Mr. Norrell again, though. So you're doing
Good,
pretty
good.
good.
My job here is done then.
Get back into that book. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank you so much for giving your time and hanging out
Thank
today or this
thank you
evening.
very much. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Like this is the first invitation of its kind I've received. So
Oh, very cool.
yeah.
It's great. If you have any social media, feel free to share.
Pretty much just the YouTube and Goodreads. I don't really do social media to be honest.
Fair enough. I think I saw like a Ko-fi or something or whatever the hell you call that. I don't know.
Yeah, like
But that's not really social media. It's like
yeah,
Patreon.
I put that there because I don't really plan to do like Patreon or anything of that sort. So and I do know that there are some people who like they look for other ways to kind of show their support.
Mm,
So that's there.
fair enough. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and until next time, we should do this again.
Absolutely. And to everyone watching, thank you very much for tuning in.
All right, yeah. Take care, everyone. Until next time. Yeah.
Thanks again, Britton.